Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Torah L'Chaim with your host, Rabbi Anibal. That's my name. That's my email if you ever want to contact me. And thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon so we can study a little bit of Torah together and spend some time together connecting with the wisdom of Judaism. And remember, we've been studying Pirkei Avot lately, and the idea is to finish this section of Torah L'Chaim all the way until the end of June. Then we have 2 months off, and then we come back with the Parsha at the beginning of September. Hello, Karen Farkas. Welcome to the class. It's a beautiful day, you say. Well, here in Winnipeg it's raining. It's not so beautiful here in Winnipeg. Hey, I am in the basement, so I have my studio in the basement. So I know because I went to the grocery store right before the class. So I know that the weather is so outside. Yeah. Anyway, so if you hear any noise in the background, sometimes I can hear the sump pump that I have in my basement that is taking the water out of from under the foundation all the way to the to the street. So once in a while it kicks in and makes this very loud noise whenever it's raining outside. Hello, Brenda Green from Brenda and David from Palmo, Texas. Welcome. Ruvain is here. Shelly Chochinov has been here from early today. Karen, you said it rained here in Edmonton for 2 days straight, so we'd send it to you. You know, you're probably right. You're probably right. It probably came from the west. I don't know, but I think by Sunday, which is Father's Day, supposed to be something like 35 degrees Celsius. I don't know the Fahrenheit. All of you in the United States, please make the numbers and type it in the chat. 35 degrees for Father's Day, and I'm supposed to go to a baseball game. Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. My son is very excited to take me to a baseball game for Father's Day, but it's going to be 35 plus the humidex, so it's probably going to feel like 38 or 40. Who knows? 94 Fahrenheit, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's going to be here in Winnipeg on Sunday. 95. Okay, yeah. 94, 95. We have today a class again on Pirkei Avot, and I realized that last week we were talking about love and fear of God, remember? So I said, okay, let's take the concept of love, for example, and the same way that we study love your God, why don't we talk about this concept of love your neighbor in Judaism and the attitude we should have towards other people. So I got inspiration from last week's class. And also, if you ever come to Congregation Shaare Zedek here in Winnipeg, I know many of you probably never been inside our sanctuary other than online, right? But if you come, you will see that the two pulpits that we have, they have similar inscriptions. One says, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. It's taken from the Shema Israel, right? It said, you shall love Adonai your God. And the other one has the inscription carved into the wood that it says Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha. So same word, Ve'ahavta, when it says love your God, and the other one love your neighbor or love your fellow, which is very interesting. The two aspects that actually should be an inspiration from finding that balance in life between the connection to God and the connection to other people, and the attitude that we should have to both. So I have a little bit of that for today. I have a little bit of that kind of pieces of advice from Pirkei Avot that hopefully are going to help us being better citizens and to be more functional in society if you want to fulfill our destiny here on earth. I believe that we were sent to this world to do great things and to do good things. You will see the inspiration for this Pirkei Avot that is talking specifically about that. I have two Mishnayot today, two different paragraphs of Pirkei Avot that we are going to study. Actually, three, but two are together. It's back to back. You will see in a minute what I'm talking about here. So, yeah. If it's anybody else there, because I see the numbers going up on my computer, but don't be shy. Say hello in the chat. I want to see who is on the other side. This is like having a Zoom, right? That only 20% of people turn the camera on. I love that when everybody said, no, we want Zoom because we want to see each other. And then when you go to Zoom, most people turn their cameras off. So you can't see them anyway. Yeah, at least here you see for Karen, I can see your photo. You uploaded a photo to YouTube. Brenda, you uploaded a photo to Facebook. Holly is here. Hello. Also, I can see the photo on Facebook. Ruvain, you don't have a photo. And Shelly, you don't have a photo on YouTube. You may want to update your profile. Randy Lodinger is here. Hello, welcome. And okay, without further ado, let's start studying our Pirkei Avot for today. I'm going to start from Pirkei Avot chapter 2 today. The concept of loving our neighbors, or the way Shelly said, never. Why not? I can help you if you don't know how to do it. Okay. All right. Let's study about the advice of Pirkei Avot about the right attitude that we should have in society. Okay. So let me bring to you this Pirkei Avot, chapter 2. Goes like this. By the way, many of the things, I believe neighbor, I believe in North America is spelled differently. Am I right? Let me know in the chat if I'm right, that they are different. Ruvain, alternate device, boosting the number. That's okay. Thank you, Ruvain. But just, I can see you have a photo there where it's like a galaxy, Brenda, you said seeing each other is part of loving each other. Yeah. Yeah, it's seeing people. It's important. I understand. Okay, so Pirkei Avot, chapter 2, Mishnah 13, and immediately after I'm going to read the 14. Okay, so it goes like this. He, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. You see what happens? Sometimes you go to Pirkei Avot and there is the same rabbi bringing different teachings. So sometimes the name of the rabbi is not repeated. He would just say, he also said, he taught. But we are also talking about the last rabbi that I was mentioned by name. Okay. In this case, if you go to chapter 2, you read a few Mishnayot. Before this one, it will mention Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai by name. Okay. So he, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, said to them, to their students, go out and see what is a straight path that a person should cling to. Okay, so the students came back. I wouldn't know after how long, but they came back. And they reported to the teacher, to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rabbi Eliezer said, a good eye. Rabbi Yehoshua says, a good friend. Rabbi Yossi says, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon says, seeing the consequences of one's actions. Rabbi Eleazar says, a good heart. He said to them, the teacher, I see the words of Rabbi Eleazar ben Arach as better than all of yours, because your words are included in his. So in other words, after this report, Rabbi Eleazar, the one who says a good heart, seems to be the clear winner. Because it's not that all the other things are not important. The Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai understands that a good heart should include all the other virtues. Okay? Shelly Chochin said, for us Canucks, you have spelled it correctly. Yeah, but is it different than the United States, Shelly? Without the U? We have many of those things that we are a U everywhere. Where colors, also we are the U. What else? Let me know in the chat. What are the words that we have these two different spellings in Canada and United States? I'm curious. Remember, English is not my first language, so this is all part of my. You're teaching me. Okay, so this is Avot 2:13. I hope it's clear what it says. Very straightforward and very deep. We're going to go over all this report of the students in a minute. But then Avot 2:14, next one, is similar, just a tiny little bit different. And he said to them, again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to the students, now go out and see what is an evil path that a person should distance himself from. Do you understand the difference now? The first one goes, go see which one is the good path to follow. And now he said, now look which one is the evil path that you should avoid. Interesting. Now, and they came back, the students, with a report. Rabbi Eliezer says, a bad eye. You see, when he was asked, what is a good path? He said, a good eye. Now he said, when the rabbi asked him, what is a bad path? A bad eye. It's logic, right? So let's continue. It says, Rabbi Yeshua says, a bad friend. Also, the opposite from the previous one. Rabbi Yossi said, a bad neighbor. Same thing, the opposite. Rabbi Shimon says, this is the only one that is different. Rabbi Shimon says, one who borrows but does not repay. Borrowing for a person is like borrowing from the omnipresent, blessed be he. It's from God. As it says in the book of Psalms, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous one gives graciously. And Rabbi Eliezer says, a bad heart. Again, the opposite. He said a good heart before, and now says a bad heart. So the teacher said to them, I see the words of Rabbi Eliezer ben Arach, once again, as better than all of yours, for your words are included in his. But again, it's very interesting that the teacher asked him two different questions. The answers were almost identical, with one little exception there, that the rabbis understand that the reason why Rabbi Shimon is different in the second Mishnah is because he tried to give a specific example. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we have some of the examples of words that they are spelled differently. Check and check. Oh, I think, Brenda, there are two different things. Check and check. Check with CK here for us is when you do a check, like a check mark, right? And a check with QUE is the check that you give somebody else as payment. That's my understanding. Color, currency, color, behavior. Yeah, you see, we are used everywhere. Yeah, the U is from England, says Howard. Hello, Howard. The U is from England. The Americans remove it. Okay. Yeah, and Shelley, you says, yes, they don't use the OU. Also, they have dispense with the LLY using only LY. Yes, the semicolon differs, and of course, pronunciation is often quite different. Karen says lazy. Yeah, you see, Shelley, you say what I'm saying. Check. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I always learn something new. I love these differences between United States and Canada in the use of language. Yeah, check it. So, yeah, I think, Brenda, what you mean is in United States, you use only the word check and on CK for regardless where you use it from. Yes, that's correct. And the same when you go to a restaurant, you ask for the check. Here you ask for the bill. In Canada, you ask for the bill. Just a few differences. People still understand. Theater and theater, yeah. But I always thought that the theater with the TRE spelling, it was the influence of the French. But it probably also influenced the British English as well. Who knows? The same with the word center. We spell it here, center, R-E at the end. And United States, center is E-R. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about these two Mishnayot that I just read for you. But the first thing, who was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? We talked a little bit about this guy in many classes in the past, because remember, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is one of the pillars of rabbinic Judaism, the way he escaped from the Romans and he started pretty much from the ground up new rabbinic schools in the land of Israel. So he's a very important character in Jewish literature, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he had this yeshiva in the city of Yavne. So let's study a little bit more in depth who this guy was. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So, by the way, as always, that's his grave in Israel. That's his grave. It says there, Matzevat Hatana Hakadosh. Matzeva means the monument. You see, when you go to the cemetery, the stone, the memorial stone that you see there, in Hebrew it's called Matzeva. Sometimes they call it Matzeve in Yiddish, Matzeve. So Matzevat, the monument. Hatana, remember the word Tana? Who were the Tanaim? The one who wrote the Mishnah. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a Tana, which came after the Zugot, the pairs. So every section of Jewish history, the rabbis are called differently. You have Zugot, Tenaim, Amoraim, etc. Okay, so he was a Tana. He said Hatana Hakadosh, which means the holy Tana. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. And then it quotes there one of his teaching from Pirkei Avot chapter 2, actually. Okay? So, let's study who he was. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he lived in the 1st century CE, was one of the Tanaim, an important Jewish sage in the era of the Second Temple, and a primary contributor to the core text of rabbinical Judaism, the Mishnah. His name is often preceded by the honorific title Rabban. Okay, it's not just a rabbi, it's a Rabban. It's like a honorific title. He's widely regarded as one of the most important Jewish figures of his time. His tomb is located in Tiberias, within the Maimonides burial compound. So again, if you ever go to Israel, take notes of this and go see these places. I think sometimes it's fascinating to put all these teachings not just in the right context, but then you go and kind of visit the sages that they said it. Yeah. Hello, Priscilla. Welcome to the class. Welcome. So let's continue. During the siege of Jerusalem in the Great Jewish Revolt, he argued in favor of peace. According to the Talmud, when he found the anger of the besieged populace to be intolerable, he arranged a secret escape from the city inside a coffin. You see, what happened is back in the day, because the zealots in Jerusalem, in the siege, Jerusalem, wouldn't let anybody in or out unless somebody died. Then they didn't want the corpse rotting inside the city, so they will ship it out. So basically, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai faked his own death, so he will be taken out of the city. Once outside, surprise, something was moving inside the coffin, was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and he said, I want to talk to Vespasian, the general. And he wanted to negotiate with him, and Vespasian basically said, who are you? I said, oh, I'm a very important rabbi. Yeah, sure you are. Well, not only that, I am also kind of a prophet. I will speak prophecy upon you. So if whatever I say come to be true, then you have to take me seriously and grant me a wish. Right? But something like that, what happened, according to legend. So, and what happened is Rabbi Yochanan correctly predicted that Vespasian would become emperor, which it looks like it was almost impossible for that to happen. Okay? And also he predicted that the temple soon will be destroyed. In return, because it happened, right? Vespasian granted Yochanan the salvation, or he spared the city of Yavne and all the teachers in Yavne. So basically, part of the thank you gift from Vespasian to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was, go to Yavne, create your yeshiva, I won't bother you. Okay? And that's what happened. He opened the school there, and it flourished, and it was amazing, all the things that they did in that city. So, upon the destruction of Jerusalem, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai converted his school at Yavne into the Jewish religious center, insisting that certain privileges given by Jewish law uniquely to Jerusalem should be transferred to Yavne. It's interesting because, remember, this is the beginning of the serious development of rabbinic Judaism, starting to plan together an alternative to the temple base faith that it was part of Judaism at that time. The Torah, there is no plan B. If you don't have a temple, what do you do? So all these rabbis had to figure it out. Jerusalem is destroyed. Temple, forget about the temple. They said probably we won't have a temple anymore. In fact, after that destruction of the temple, we're still waiting for the third temple. It never happened in 2,000 years. And they kind of knew that. So they decided to change the status of Yavne into almost like the New Jerusalem. So his school functioned as a re-establishment of the Sanhedrin, so that Judaism could decide how to deal with the loss of the sacrificial altars of the temple in Jerusalem and other pertinent questions. Referring to a passage in the book of Hosea, I desired mercy, not sacrifice. He helped persuade the council to replace animal sacrifice with prayer, a practice that continues in today's worship services. Eventually, Rabbinic Judaism emerged from the council's conclusions. So we actually we should be grateful to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai for convincing other people to forget about animal sacrifices. We have other way. Some people thought that it was the end until Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, guys, we don't need to sacrifice animals. We can pray to God with words. And we are all enjoying the fruits in these days of everything that transpired from Yavne to the rest of the Jewish world. Okay, so this was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, very important person. Now let's go back to the Mishnah, Pirkei Avot, okay, about this rabbi who asked his students about what is the good way and the bad way. Now the first thing, let me go back for a second here. The first things that actually strike me, and actually the most, are the words go out and see. Oh, I want to know your opinion. Please type it in the chat. What do you think it means? The rabbi telling his students, go out and see. I will give you a minute. Think about it, because to me, that is the most important part of the text. The go out and see. What do you think it is? The go out and see. Mingle with the common folk, of course. Yeah, get out of familiar surroundings. In other words, get out of the yeshiva. Get out of the yeshiva. Because he's talking about scholars. And you will say, come on, doesn't a scholar know which one is the good way and which one is the bad way? They've been studying Torah their whole life, so they should know that. But now the rabbi is throwing at them a new challenge. He was saying, forget about what you learn in the academy for a minute. Go out. Expose yourself to the world. See what's going on around, outside the books, outside the school. And then come back and tell me, based on your experience, what is the good way and the bad way. I think it's brilliant. And sometimes those 4 words, go out and see, get overlooked. When people read this Mishnah, they all talk about the good eye, the good friend, the good neighbor. What does it mean? All good. But everything starts with go out and see. Okay? And you see, if you go to the Hebrew, it's 2 words. Tseu, ureu. Tseu, tse. Go out. To me, that is fascinating and the most important words of this Mishnah. Go out and see. Because many times we discuss theology at an academic level. I said sometimes you have to bring it down to reality and to say, have you ever been out in the world? Do you really know how the world works? It's important. It's important to know. And you can see that tension between the life at the yeshiva and studying 24/7 versus immersing yourself in society is a tension that it was present at the time of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai as well. Otherwise, why would he say to the students, go out? Right? I find it fascinating. Yeah. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, very much all what we, yeah. And Ruvain said, interesting the significance, let me see, of the good versus evil theme. Yeah, but you see, that is also something that strikes me. Why would the rabbi say, tell me what is the good thing and then attach to it, and then tell me what is the bad thing and get away from it? I say, isn't that the same thing? If I'm already, if you already told me what is the good thing, isn't that enough? To say, okay, this is the good thing, I have to follow this path, but you also have to define what is the bad thing and get away from there. It looks like it's not the same, and it looks like they are both important. That you have to know what is the good and follow it, and what is the bad and get away from it. And I believe that that has to do with something that is different for every person, right? But finding a way to avoid temptation. We all know our weaknesses. So sometimes you have to create your own fence so you won't go to a quote-unquote forbidden place. And also to create in your life the right incentives for you to follow the good way. That's why I believe both things are equally important. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the comments of the rabbis here. First, let's bring Rabbi Menachem ben Solomon Meiri. He says, well, all the character traits that follow are important elements of a complete Torah personality, right? You see all the things, good eye, good neighbor, good friends, etc. It's all important. No one can expect to master every desirable trait. Perfection in one area is preferable to partial success in multiple areas. For one unblemished good trait can serve as the catalyst for the refinement of the total personality. Very interesting. One must pick a solitary trait and cleave to it until he masters it. In addition, one good attribute can serve as a trailblazer for the overall pursuit of a proper path. What do you think about this? I think it's also a very interesting statement. That's and I've seen it in many aspects. If you do a sport, for example, and you try, sometimes it's true that you have to master one technique at a time, otherwise you won't be a functional player. If you try to do too much at a time, it's not good. It's preferable sometimes to choose one aspect of the technique, following it, and so forth. Okay. So let's continue now with the next one. Or listen to this. This is very interesting as well. Chesed le'Avraham, and this is another rabbi, which gives an interesting interpretation for the use of the word itbak, to cling or cleave. So why is it in that? Let me show you again, because if you go back to this, the word used by the teacher, Tzeu ureu eizohi derech yeshara she'idbak ba ha'adam. Idbak. You know how to say glue in Hebrew is a debek, which is the same word, the same root of the word used here, idbak. So in other words, what is the rabbi is saying, not only go out of the yeshiva and see things around, and then when you find something, it has to be something that you have to glue yourself to it. So it's not something that you are going to visit a little bit and then you get out and then you come back to it. No. Find what is the way that you have to glue yourself to it. So let's go with that explanation of the words. Let's go back to this rabbi. He said again, so this rabbi has a very interesting interpretation of the word idbak, to cling, to cleave, to glue. The physical and spiritual aspect of man must achieve a modus vivendi, which is mutually beneficial. Okay? A healthy body is needed to carry the spirit, and a vibrant spirituality is the lifeblood of an otherwise animalistic body. Okay? Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was asking his students which character trait could serve as the glue to bond body and soul together and enable them to serve each other's need, which is the proper path through which the physical and spiritual aspect of man will be pulled together. So in other words, how do you find the right path? The right path is the one that it will help you find the balance between the spiritual life and the physical life. And again, it's not a coincidence that the rabbi asked them to get out of the yeshiva because these students, they were clearly out of balance. They have too much spirituality in their life and very little contact with the physical world. So say, go out and find what is the best way to survive in that spiritual world by finding a balance. Okay? Let's finish with this text. If one cleaves to this particular trait under all circumstances, it will be a deterrent against sin. And even if, God forbid, one lapses, it will help him recover spiritually. This trait should serve as a spiritual compass, charting a course as he advances toward his destination. This was said by Rabbi Sholom Noach Berezovsky. What do you think about this? About finding this balance between the physical and the spiritual. And I think it's something that is, sometimes we struggle to find the balance. Sometimes we struggle. And I think in this world, especially in these days, we probably have way too much of the physical aspect. And it's very difficult to add spirituality on everything we do in the physical world, in the material world. It's a struggle. It's difficult. It's difficult. So I would like to hear your opinion about this and what is your own way to find that balance between the two. So with that in mind, yeah, Karen, you say it's a constant struggle. I agree. But with that in mind, how do you understand? Because let's go back. I always like to go back to the Mishnah. So basically, with that interpretation in mind, if you go back to what the student says, one said a good eye. A good eye in the sense that being positive. A good eye sees the good in everything you look at. And because one of the problems that we have sometimes is we do the opposite. We don't take a positive look at life. We always seem to find the problem in everything we have in front of us. And when that happens, we immediately fall into disbalance. And there is something lacking. So I said that I guess the best way to find the balance is to start by being positive. Okay? That's according to Rabbi Eliezer. Maybe it was something that he was struggling with. And then when he went out, he was overwhelmed by society. And he said, well, I cannot function here. And then he realized, oh, you know what? If that's my first thought when I got out of yeshiva, something is wrong. So I have to be more positive. So maybe the first thing I should have is a good eye. It's interesting. Maybe I don't know much about Rabbi Eliezer, but it seems to imply that was his struggle, so that is his recommendation. Rabbi Yehoshua says, and this is more practical. Rabbi Yehoshua says a good friend. And this makes sense, and I will say that if we ask many people about what is the key to succeed in this world and to stay sane in mind and body, is to have a good friend to support you. And at the same time, you becoming a good friend to support somebody else, right? Because I believe when it says a good friend here, it's both ways. It doesn't say find somebody who will be a good friend to you. No, the rabbi said just a good friend. That means find a good friend for you, so if you fall, your friend will help you to stand up again, but at the same time, you should become a good friend to somebody else. That's why, again, when you go to yeshiva, they will pair you to another person and you support each other. So for this, Rabbi said, the same way that when you go to yeshiva, you have a chavruta, you have a friend that will study with you, a study buddy. When you go out to yeshiva, you should have a chavruta as well, somebody who will walk this world with you so you can help each other. I think that's a brilliant thing to consider, to find that elusive balance in life. To be a good friend and to find a good friend. Again, ask many people and they will say, I wish I will have a good friend. So that's very important. Now, Rabbi Yossi, I think, is a little smarter here because we know sometimes how difficult it is to find a good friend. But he said that better than a good friend is to live in a good neighborhood. In other words, to live in a place where you can flourish. If you live in a toxic place, then your chances to succeed are going to be very limited. And I don't know what his inspiration was here, but if you read the Torah, the book of Genesis, you will see that the first thing that God said to Abraham, when God saw the potential in Abraham, said, get out of your land to the place that I will show you. Remember, Lech lecha me'artzecha, u'mimoladetecha u'miveit avicha la'aretz asher areka. Leave your place. Why? Because it's toxic. Where you live now, Abraham, won't take you anywhere. In fact, you have lots of potential, but you won't be able to flourish there. So you have to be smart and to move to a place with other people, with people that they will support you, or at least they won't try to undermine what you're trying to do. So in other words, what Rabbi Yossi said, living in the outside world is very important, but be very careful where you live. In other words, be very careful the people that you spend time with. They're not necessarily your friends, but you spend a lot of time with them. So whatever they do, they are going to influence you. I heard once say, you want to know what a person is going to be doing in 5 years from now, look at the people around that person. And it will give you a good idea where that person is going to be in the future. Because people are like an elevator. Think about this. The people around you are like an elevator. You know what an elevator does? The elevator never stays at the same level. The elevator either will take you up or will bring you down. Will never stay in the same place. So it's up to us to be surrounded by people that it will bring us up, will elevate us, not to take us down. So that's why Rabbi Yossi said a good neighbor is very important. But I guess at the same time, again, two ways. You become a good influence for other people as well. Now, Rabbi Shimon says, seeing the consequences of one's action. And this is, it's almost like said, welcome to real life. Welcome to real life. When you have to start realizing that every action will have a reaction, right? And you have to know about that from the get-go. If you are in an academy, in a yeshiva, you're like a little kid. Right? You don't have much chances to make big mistakes or to plan big things. Once you go into life, you have to start planning ahead. You need a plan. You need a plan to succeed in this world. So unless you plan your life, then it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a struggle. So what he realized after he left the yeshiva, Rabbi Shimon, is unless that I know what I'm doing, I will fail. So that is his advice. And the last one, of course, Rabbi Eliezer said a good heart, which is great. And we all know that includes all the other things, but it's very difficult just based on a good heart to find the balance that we are looking for. It's very important. The good heart is very important. But that's why the other rabbi says sometimes it's not just about the good heart, but about specific, and to see what's your struggle, and to improve your life in those areas, but always with a good heart. That's how you blend the two. Now, I want to bring to you another one that is talking about our relationship with other people. Another Mishnah. This is actually for chapter 1, Mishnah number 12. And this is from Hillel. This is the Rabbi Hillel. Remember, we talked about Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. They were the students of Hillel and the student of Shammai. All the disputes between them. But this one is coming from Hillel. Hillel himself said this. Okay? So, Hillel says, be of the disciples of Aaron, loving peace and pursuing peace, loving the creatures and bringing them closer to Torah. So I think this is also connected to the previous one in the same sense of what should be our way to connect with other people. And here the Hillel says, well, okay, you want a role model of what to do? You want a role model? Look at Aaron and learn from him how he loved peace, pursuing peace. He loved everybody, bringing them closer to Torah. Now, the other thing that nobody talks about it when they read this. This is me now, Rabbi Anibal, reflecting about this. It says, be of the disciples of Aaron. If I wouldn't know enough Torah, I will ask myself, who the heck is Aaron? Which Aaron? There are many Aarons, right? I don't know. My son has a friend. His name is Aaron. But who Aaron is this? Because it's loving peace and pursuing peace, loving the creatures and bringing them closer to Torah. We never. I know. Again, he said this would be me if I wouldn't know enough Torah. I wouldn't know that actually this Mishnah is talking about Aaron, which was Moses' brother, the first high priest of the Jewish people. But why doesn't it say that? What doesn't say be of the disciple of Aaron the priest? And then we will all know what he's talking about, because nowhere in the Torah says that Aaron the priest was somebody who was known for being a peace lover or for bringing people together. Nobody in the Torah says that. So why not saying disciples of Aaron the priest? And I believe the reason is that to Hillel, that will be a disservice to Aaron, because now he doesn't want to present Aaron as being famous because he was a great priest. But to Hillel, the most important characteristic of Aaron was not the priesthood, was the fact that he was a peace lover and he was a person who dedicated his life to bring people together and to help people connect with God. And that is something that is way more important of being a priest, and that's why I believe the description of Aaron as a priest is missing. Here is Aaron, the peace lover. Okay, that's what I would think. Karen Farkas, I just read this and said we should all be vegetarians. Why did you say that? What did I miss? Why did I mention meat? Why did I mention meat? That I said that we should all be vegetarians. I don't know. Please remind me what I said that makes you say that. Okay, so let's let me tell you something about Hillel here. Okay, Hillel the elder. And Hillel was born, according to tradition, in Babylon, circa in the year 110 BCE, and died 10 CE in Jerusalem. Oh, loving the creatures. Thank you, Karen. Now I understand. Yeah. So Hillel the elder, and I will tell you in a minute why he was called Hillel the elder. Okay, he was a Jewish religious leader, one of the most important figures in Jewish history. He's associated with the development of the Mishnah and the Talmud. Renowned within Judaism as a sage and scholar, he was the founder of the House of Hillel School for Tanaim, sages of the Mishnah, actually sages of the Gemara, the Tanaim, the Mishnah, yes, and the founder as the dynasty of sages who stood at the head of the Jewish living in the land of Israel until roughly the 5th century of the Common Era. Okay, so this was Hillel the elder. But it's always mentioned side by side with Shammai. Who was Shammai? Well, Shammai was born in the year 50 BCE and died around the year 30 CE. You notice the difference here in age? Let's continue. He was a Jewish scholar and an important figure in Judaism's core work of rabbinic literature, the Mishnah. He was also a rabbi of that time. Shammai was the most eminent contemporary of Hillel, and whose teaching almost entirely agreed with those of Hillel, except in only 3 places. I mentioned that last time, and I couldn't remember how many things they disagreed. Remember? I found it, and it's only 3. So the most important disagreement was over an early rabbinic dispute regarding the actual laying on of hands upon one sacrificial animal on a festival day. Hillel permitting to do so, and Shammai said, no, you should not put your hands on the animal. Remember, that was the only thing they were talking about. Very little thing to our eyes. So that was Hillel and Shammai, the person of Hillel, the person of Shammai. Their disciples, who did not fully serve their masters, came to dispute over many other halachic matters. The school of Shammai, founded by Shammai, is almost invariably mentioned along the school of Hillel, founded by Hillel, and which differ fundamentally from each other on virtually everything. Although they were contemporaries, Hillel was nearly 60 years old at the time of Shammai's birth. That's why I believe it was called Hillel the Elder, because by the time that Shammai was this prominent rabbi, Hillel was quite old and wise. So it was Shammai versus Hillel the Elder. But it was probably very impressive for Shammai, being such a young rabbi, and to sit next to this older gentleman that was Hillel, and they were pretty much making all these decisions together. Okay, so again, every time that we read usually Hillel and Shammai, we are talking about Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. And guys, this is very important for all of you to remember. Hillel and Shammai themselves, they agree on 99.9% of things. Never forget that. It was their students that started the disagreements. Okay, what are the other 2 disagreements, Karen Farkas? I don't know. I couldn't find it. But it says that those 3 disagreements were there within the Zugot, within these pairs. So you remember that they were always 2 leaders for 5 generations. 5 generations. There was always one who believed one side and the other one believed the other side, and was always the same 3 things. Hillel and Shammai, they were not an exception. They were still disagreeing on those same 3 things. Okay? So Hillel disciples are generally called the house of Hillel, in contrast to the Shammai's disciples, the house of Shammai. Their controversies concern all branches of Jewish law. Only a few decisions have been handed down under Hillel's name. But there can be no doubt that much of the oldest anonymous traditional literature was due directly to him or to the teaching of his masters. The fixation of the hermeneutical norm for midrash and halachic scripture exposition was first made by Hillel in the 7 rules of Hillel. So basically, he wrote down how to extract halacha from the Torah using logic. So he created 7 rules. Okay, and they were very famous. They were widely used. Okay, but eventually, what happened is, on these 7 rules rest the 13 principles of Rabbi Ishmael. Okay, they were epoch-making for the systematic development of the ancient scripture exposition. So Hillel created the 7 rules that were the foundation of rabbinic Judaism, and Rabbi Ishmael expanded it, and he created the 13 rules that they are the most famous way of creating halacha, creating law from the Torah. You can find these 13 principles in every Siddur, every prayer book just before the Kaddish, the Rabbanan, in the Shachrit service. So you can go there and read it. It's fascinating, but very difficult to understand. Okay? Now, let's understand now a little bit of the content of this Mishnah, now that we have another 5 minutes for the class. So let's talk a little bit about the phrase loving peace. Again, this is coming from the Maharal of Prague. He says, the phrase loving peace refers to preventing disputes from arising. The phrase pursuing peace refers to restoring a harmonious relationship if a dispute did arise. Hillel uses the term pursuing in this context because people who quarrel keep at a distance from each other, and anything at a distance requires pursuit. You have to go there. The ability to restore peace is so characteristic of Kedusha, holiness, that peace, shalom, is one of God's names. Since Kedusha lies in the spiritual realm, outside the constraints of time, peacemaking must be undertaken with instant pursuit as befits this spiritual endeavor. Okay. Shali Chochino said one of the fundamental disagreement was on the preservation for the same sake of heaven versus not for the sake of heaven. I'm not sure about that. I will keep researching about it, Shali. Okay, so this is the comment of the Maharal of Prague of this Mishnah. And let me give you now the commentary of Sforno, Rabbi Ovadia ben Yaakov Sforno. He said, do not be as impatient and as strict as Shammai. By the way, that was one of the, he had a reputation of being very stringent, okay? And also to have a temper, Shammai. Hillel, all the opposite. But I guess, again, now you can know that Shammai was this young rabbi who found himself in a position of power at a very early age, which seems to be all the opposite of what we usually hear about these rabbis, that they were, we imagine them as being older, like Hillel in this case. Hillel the elder, but it looks like Shammai was probably young and passionate guy. So, Rabbi Ovadia ben Yaakov Sforno says, as our sages of blessed memory recount, 3 proselytes met in one place and said, the harshness of Shammai threatened to remove us from the eternal world, while the humility of Hillel brought us under the sheltering wings, the divine presence. Which is interesting, because back in the day, the rabbis didn't have the same, the same approach towards converts that we have in these days. And some rabbis said you have to try to send them away 3 times to see if they come back. Back then it looks like it was much easier, thanks to Hillel. If somebody would come to Hillel and Hillel say, okay, I will teach you Torah. Stay with me. I'll teach you Torah. Shammai used to put too many deterrents for somebody to join the Jewish people. So this, according to this interpretation, when it says be like Aaron, bringing people close to Torah, he's taken literally, because sometimes the word closer to Torah, it means making a people, loving God or have an ethical approach to life. No. Here, take it literally. Closer to Torah, meaning with awakening the desire to become Jewish people. As it looks at that was the way Hillel understood this principle, which is very interesting. Okay, so, and let's present one more teaching here from Rabbi Yehuda Ariel Leib Alter. He said, instead of merely saying, love peace and pursue peace, the Mishnah prefaces with, be among the disciples of Aaron. Okay? Because the Mishnah didn't have to do that. Didn't have to say, be like disciples of Aaron. The Mishnah could just said, hey, you're going to be a good Jew, love peace and pursue peace. Period. No. The Mishnah says, be among the disciples of Aaron. Why? Peacemaking is so difficult a pursuit that only by adopting Aaron as a rabbi can one hope to succeed. Any proficient pacemaker should not attribute his accomplishment to his own talents, but rather to the precedent set by the merit of Aaron. In other words, and I think this is something that I always say, how important it is to have a mentor in life, or to extract inspiration from someone that they did it before us. And who is the example brought here? Aaron. And I believe that is also the same thing. At the same time, the rabbis are saying, do you know anybody else who is like Aaron? Who is a person who promotes peace? Okay? Learn from them. Become a student of them. See what they have to teach you and get inspired by them so you can apply it to your life. It's like this. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to today's class. If you like the class, remember, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you will be notified every time we go live and every time we upload something to our channels. And also remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. So if you miss anything of this class, don't worry. You can always play it again tonight. And I hope to see you all again next Thursday. Again, at noon, we have another class with Torah L'Chaim, Pirkei Avot Part 9, God willing, next time. Until that time, remember, you can join us. We have services every day. We have a very special Kabbalat Shabbat this Friday, by the way. It's going to be the graduation of another group of choosing Judaism. These are all the ones, there are 2.5 years of people who couldn't have their mikvah because of all the COVID restrictions. So they finally finish all their process and they're all getting graduated this Friday evening. So we have an enhanced Kabbalat Shabbat. I will be there. Leslie will be there. We'll have a violinist, hand drummer. It's going to be an amazing service. And we are going to welcome another group of people to the community. So I hope to see you there. Friday, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Wonderful weekend, actually. Stay safe. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.